Welcome to Dad's DeFi Space. I'm Kevin, and today we're going to explore the story behind Snuggle MaxFi and Agent Max, the builder behind this new and upcoming DeFi project, Alex YaBonks, alongside his co-founder Dal King, team behind Agent Max. Now, thanks for joining us. Before we talk about Agent Max today, and what I think is like revolutionary technology with your Snuggle.Fi rebalancing. I just want everyone to know who you are. Many people know your name, YaBonks, but from X, YouTube, the Underdog Investment Group, all of that, but they don't know the builder behind the name. So tell us what led you, kind of your background story, led you into crypto, maybe even your engineering background, or what led you into crypto and eventually the DeFi space.
Sure. And thank you, first off, Kevin, for having me on your show and doing this interview with me. I'm honored to be here. And yeah, as you said, I'm known online as YaBonks. My name's Alex Walsh. Everyone calls me YaBonks. And I started in crypto back in about 2014. I had heard about crypto in senior year of college. I was in computer science and engineering school, and I heard some people talking about Bitcoin in like 2011, and I just kind of wrote it off and kept studying for final exams. I wish I would have listened to them and bought $100 worth. I'd probably be a billionaire by now. Uh,
Wouldn't we all?
yeah, and then 2014 came around, and I really started learning about um, our fiat currency system and how the monetary system works, not just in the United States, but globally with central banking, and how since the Federal Reserve became a thing around 1913 in the United States, and they started, printing more dollars um, and inflating the currency supply and depreciating the value of our dollars um, as it's kind of an insidious form of taxation, among other things. And
Yeah, the silent tax.
the silent tax, everything becomes more expensive and your earnings don't keep up with it. And then you have to pay higher taxes and these higher dollar amounts for everything, like the price of your home, property taxes, income tax, you name it. Income tax started around then as well as part of that. So things really changed then. And then when we lost the gold backing for our currency, the bottom kind of fell out um, for the value of the dollar. And since the 70s, it has dropped precipitously, like 95 plus percent in purchasing power compared to what it was back then. So they've printed so many dollars into existence, and now it's easy. They just press a few buttons, and boom, there's another $1 trillion added to the monetary system, and then that inflate that inflates everything. Now, when I started learning about that, so when I started learning about inflation and the printing of dollars and how that all works, I got upset as any citizen should. And I was like, what am I going to do about it? So first I became a gold and silver bug, the natural progression of that. I'm looking for harder assets, more sound money. And then I realized how illiquid gold and silver are and how hard it is to deal in such things in our modern society. You can't really go to the grocery store with a gold doubloon and buy your groceries. So that stuff's great for long-term savings, zombie apocalypse, keeping some in a vault somewhere for a rainy day to hold your value, especially against the dollar. But then the next evolution of sound money was Bitcoin, and I really dug into the white paper and the technology behind it, the decentralized network aspect of it. And as a software engineer, uh, that really rang true to me as the way to go. The proof of work concept, everything that makes it the hardest form of money we've ever seen, with 21 million Bitcoin ever to exist, and it's just only deflating as people lose their keys, send it to wrong addresses, that Bitcoin's basically out of the circulating supply forever. So over time, what happens is you have a growing demand for this extremely hard asset, which they can't print any more of. And because of supply and demand, and you're a teacher of economics,
Oh yeah.
you know, supply and demand, the less supply and the more demand means price goes up. So I saw Bitcoin not only as a long term potential solution to maintaining the value and my net worth that I worked so hard for, grinding every day as a software engineer in windowless cubicles, writing code for corporations. And I'm like, I need to save some of this. Every year, my dollars in the bank become worth less. I can buy less with those dollars. But with Bitcoin, we saw the exact opposite happen. Bitcoin just went parabolic over the last decade or more, last 15 years. And it just, as the way I see it, it just absorbs all of that fiat currency into it. And in dollar terms, Bitcoin is just going to keep exponentially going up. Now, of course, it's going to chop with the volatility of the crypto market, but
Hey,
over
it's the
time,
traders that love the volatility of this market, and the few that I know that I actually think are really good at it, they would argue that a lot. In fact, those are the same guys that are like, I liked it better
yeah,
back in 2017,
yeah. I mean,
which was before
those,
my time, but
you know, it would go up 20% one day and be back down 20% the next day. And then it would do that like every couple of weeks. Traders loved it. And I love it as a market maker. So, as somebody who provides liquidity on these assets, I facilitate these markets and I earn a fee every time somebody swaps or trades between, let's say, Bitcoin and US dollars. I earn a little bit of that. And I park my assets in these liquidity pools and I just accumulate the fees as a market maker the same way that the market makers work in the stock market and other places, slightly different on the technical side of things, but same concept overall. We facilitate the trades and we are compensated for providing that liquidity, which makes these markets possible. And that leads me to answering your next question that you asked me about Snuggle. And that's basically why I developed Snuggle. I was looking for a more capital efficient way to do liquidity provisioning on the blockchain using the manual Snuggle rebalancing technique that I had been teaching for years, as you know, in the Underdog Investor Group, UIG. I've been part of the Crypto Labs research team for a long time. And Snuggle was born out of me teaching this technique, which is the most capital efficient way to do it. I taught it to thousands of people, hundreds of people in a one-on-one setting, deploying tens of millions of dollars into liquidity positions with those people. And when it came time to rebalance those concentrated liquidity positions, it always came down to the advanced manual Snuggle rebalancing technique to do it, to save them on the swap fees, the slippage, the price impact, the MEV exposure, and drastically reduce impermanent loss by about 50%. And you are actually the first one of the first published authors on Snuggle rebalancing back in 2024 on dadsdefispace.org. Is that that's the correct website, right?
oh
Dad's DeFi.
yes, yes, and honestly, it was probably after one of your presentations that you gave within the UIG back during that time. I mean, I'm still a member, but
Yes.
much I was a lot more active in my early days than I am today. But um, would you would you argue to say that, like, based off everything that I just heard from you, like, Bitcoin is the foundation
Absolutely.
of okay, okay.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of decentralization, um, proof of work, and then the next evolution of that with um, basically computing on chain with Solidity smart contracts in the Ethereum virtual machine. So once Ethereum was born, it gave us a way to write programs on the blockchain versus just using Bitcoin as a way to transact monetarily. So Bitcoin's fantastic for maintaining value as the hardest form of money ever and transacting that value instantaneously. It's very liquid. I can send you Bitcoin across the world instantly. And let's say the government cracks down and goes absolutely nuts. Let's say World War II, Germany. People were trying to smuggle their gold out of the country, their their family's wealth, their legacy, their hard-earned time and money stored in gold, which is a very hard form of money, a great store of value, but very hard to transport, very hard to sneak across the border if you get patted down, and it's very heavy. So when you think about situations like that, it makes you see how impractical gold is in certain situations, silver even more so. And that's why Bitcoin was so genius for transacting that hard sound money in a very liquid manner that is cross border, instantaneous, outside of the reach of governments. And
No, I think people forget about the immutable aspect of Bitcoin sometimes.
yes, it's beautiful because they can't confiscate your Bitcoin out of your cold wallet, your wallet in general, like they can with dollars in the bank. I mean, we saw in the last decade the country of Greece literally went into citizens' bank accounts when their economy was having issues, and they literally just took people's money and used it for their own purposes, and these people had no defense against this. Or in Canada, when the truckers were on strike over the COVID stuff, those people had their bank accounts frozen by the government because they weren't falling in line politically with the narrative at the time that the government that was in power at that time was pushing. And regardless of your political stance, the fact that the government was able to pause people's financial lives and just shut down their access to banking solely based on where they stood on the political spectrum was eye opening and shocking. And what people did was they donated to those truckers in Bitcoin. They would literally give them envelopes, hand it to them in their truck, and in that envelope would be a hardware wallet with Bitcoin on it that they could then use in a roundabout way to go buy their groceries or pay their rent somehow. They could go to a cash machine, a Bitcoin ATM, get cash out and pay their landlord and prevent themselves from getting evicted.
Right.
So that's why Bitcoin, the immutability, like you said, is so important. And then Ethereum has those same properties, immutability, but also then allows you to write programs on the blockchain to do a lot of really cool stuff, like what I've done with Snuggle. Also creating escrow contracts if you want to facilitate a deal between two parties, all sorts of really cool things that we've seen over the past few years. There's a million different use cases now and thousands of new blockchain networks based on these same core principles.
I've already had conversations with you where, you know, it part of the reason I got so interested in what you were building is when you said, I built this to solve a problem I had myself.
Yeah.
That's real utility. When I hear a builder say that, I'm now already interested no matter what the project is. Now, today's conversation was really about the foundation of Snuggle.Fi and Agent Max, the experience, the lessons, the builder, but also that builder's thesis and value proposition. But in the next episode, we're going to really dive into Snuggle.Fi technology, and we're going to explore why zero swap rebalancing has generated so much attention and why many liquidity providers in this space are really paying attention to not just MAXFI and Agent Max, but Snuggle.Fi technology. Just check out the total value locked on DeFi Llama. And if you're interested in the future of AI powered DeFi, you need to truly understand the engines and the builders before you understand the vehicle itself. I'll see you in episode 2. And if you're interested in trying out MaxFi, consider using our link in the description. Be sure to follow YaBonks on YouTube and on X. See you in episode 2. Go touch some grass. Peace.